Well, hello. Hello, everyone. This is one of my favorite parts of the evening. Well, every second is my favorite part, but watching all your faces pop on is so lovely. It's so wonderful to see familiar faces, and tonight we are excited to see new faces. So my name is Eliza Swords. I work in admissions at USM, and it is my honor to welcome you all to tonight's event. The learning curve is steepening. Are you ready? For those of you who don't know, we've been holding these worldwide community gatherings for the grad community, I think ever since March when Safer at Home started. And they have become real touchstones for the community, for me, an incredible way to refresh, renew, and recharge within the container of spiritual psychology, reminding ourselves of the principles and the basic skills of this education, this transformational education. What's so exciting about tonight's event is it's the first time that we are opening it up to the whole community at large. So many of you tonight are new. We welcome you, and we're so excited you're here. Perhaps you came through a loved one's suggestion. Perhaps you witnessed some profound transformation in a friend's life or a family's life. And maybe you've just always been curious about what's in the water at USM. What are we all drinking? So we welcome you. However you came to us, we welcome you tonight. A couple of housekeeping items. If you could change your name identifier in your little Zoom box so we can know who you are, that would be great. In the top right-hand corner, if you hover your mouse above it, there are three little dots, and you can select that and write rename or select rename. If you're a grad, if you could write grad in your name identifier. And if you are a newcomer, if you could write your location so we can learn a little something about you, that would be incredible. Without further ado, I can't personally think of two better people to take us on this journey tonight to discuss this ever steepening learning curve in these very interesting times than my beloved teachers, masterful educators, and founders of the USM organization that has been holding this transformational work for over 35 years, Drs. Ron and Mary Holnick.
Thank you, Eliza, and welcome everyone. We are just so delighted to be here with you. It's just such a great blessing. And as always, we like to begin USM events with a centering and a 5-minute peace meditation. So let's go ahead and move into that. Father, Mother, God, Lord God of all creation, we're so grateful to be gathered here in the beautiful USM energy field. We ask that only that which is for the highest good be brought forward here, keeping in mind the university's mission, the intention and purpose of this evening, and the unique destinies of each individual participating here in the live gathering and those as well who'll be listening to the replay. We ask for the presence, guidance, love, support, inspiration, protection, and direction of the masters and teachers of light that work with each one of us, and that divine line of spiritual energy that works through the University of Santa Monica. We're so grateful for the gift of life, for the opportunities to awaken more fully into the awareness of who we truly are, to release the patterns, issues, misunderstandings, misidentifications that bind us to illusion, to a misunderstanding of who we are, to a misunderstanding of what is real and what is falsehood. We send the light ahead of us this evening. We ask the blessings of joy and upliftment, of healing grace, of wisdom, of humor and upliftment be with us. We're so grateful. So be it. And we'll move into our 5-minute peace meditation. And during this meditation, I invite you to focus your awareness in your heart on the loving that is your essential nature. And during the meditation, you can breathe in the loving and breathe out the loving. If you wish, you can, in the silence of your own heart, repeat the word love, love, love. Or you can repeat the word peace, peace, peace. And as we focus on peace and love, we extend this blessing of light to all who are gathered, to your loved ones, your four-legged friends, and also all across the planet, to all people, to all life forms, to everyone, to all conditions, situations, and circumstances that are being experienced during this turbulent time. Peace, peace, peace. All right. Well, the theme this evening is the learning curve is steepening. Are you ready? You know, and when Ron and I reflect on the last 7 months or so, it seemed like we were living on a different planet in a very different reality. And then all of a sudden, all of this radical and rapid change began. And our circumstances and situations didn't change just a little. Pandemic became a household word globally. And soon, very soon, we were sequestering at home. We were wearing masks, and they became a new health practice for all of us. So the number and magnitude of outer changes that have occurred has really produced a great sense of uncertainty. And at times, I know it can seem very overwhelming. Not only have we had COVID-19, there's been political polarization, economic hardship for many, hunger, a real issue for many, incredible environmental issues that we've been experiencing, massive fires. I was reading today that the fires north of us became a 1 million-acre fire, unheard of until this time. And then, of course, there's been hurricane after hurricane after hurricane. We've had severe air pollution and tremendous social unrest based on racial issues. And this really says nothing about the details of our own personal life circumstances that have catalyzed, I think, a lot of mental anguish and emotional suffering. So these things that I have just mentioned really point to the steepening learning curve. And it presents us with an incredible opportunity. The opportunity can be to default to a new normal by remaining at the level of consciousness that actually has contributed to and created the current challenges that we're experiencing. Or there is an alternative. We can evolve to a new better by equipping ourselves with an elevated consciousness truly capable of achieving it. And for Ron and myself, our intention is stronger than ever to continue serving the greater awakening that is taking place on the planet at this time. And in response to everything that's happening, we have made the decision to offer the 10-month program in soul-centered living, and it will launch this coming February. And for the first time in the university's 40-year history, it will be available to anyone, anywhere in the world, through the online technology that we've been using for the past 7 months with the second year students, which has been an incredible experience. These people are surely spiritual warriors. They have been courageous, they have been dedicated and devoted, and they have really been all in as we have been learning how to deliver this truly soul-centered education through an online format. So everyone here at USM is very enthusiastic. The staff are amazing. We are inspired by them, by their enthusiasm. They are truly trailblazers and have been actively participating in translating this world-renowned program to an online offering. So what we'd like to do is provide you with a little overview of what we're going to do this evening. We're going to do a PowerPoint presentation, and that will then be followed by some sharing. Sharing really are the mainstay of worldwide community gatherings. So we'll be asking people, as Ron does the PowerPoint, to avail themselves of the handout that was prepared for this event. And I'll just bring your awareness to the questions that are on it. In what ways are you experiencing the learning curve as steepening? Oh my goodness. I mean, there are myriad ways. And then the second question, is there a specific challenge that you're experiencing? A specific situation that may be triggering upset for you or disturbance within your own consciousness? And then, excuse me, is there something as you listen this evening, as you participate in this gathering, may occur during the PowerPoint presentation, it may occur during the sharing, it may occur during a feedback that we provide to someone during sharing, and that somehow would assist you in working with or responding to the challenge that you're experiencing. So, and there's a place where you can make notes of these here. So.
Shall we?
Yes.
All right, well, as I suspect most, if not all of you know, this is really the first time that we've had one of these gatherings where people could invite anybody they wanted. People generally have friends who are saying things like, "What do you do in that place? I mean, what goes on there? You seem changed in a good way, and I don't know what that means." And so we thought, well, the first thing, let's just go through the essence of what this is all about, and then we'll move into the questions and answers. And how interesting and how coincidental that I happened to get this today in an email that I get from Dr. David Hawkins, who is passed, but there's like a quote that comes every day. And listen to this. The difficulties of this world appear to be the consequence of all different levels of evolutionary development being thrown together spontaneously, which results in social turbulence. Simultaneously, however, the availability of such a wide spectrum allows for the greatest opportunity for growth and the undoing of, quote, bad karma, and by choice, accumulating the merit of, again, quote, good karma. Thus, this domain is one of maximum spiritual opportunity, with a great multitude of options and choices that provide maximum potential for the evolution of consciousness, about which one can be grateful instead of resentful. As the Buddha taught, rare is it to be born a human being, rarer still to have heard of enlightenment, and even rarer still to pursue it. You wouldn't be sitting in this presentation this evening if you didn't fall into the category of an interest in what he called enlightenment. We call it soul-centered living. Mike, is it up? Okay. So we're going to just go through a relatively quick thing here and just try to get a sense of what we're talking about here and see to what degree it has relevance in your life. So what is soul-centered living? An introduction to spiritual psychology. And what are we talking about when we use those words, spiritual psychology? What is it? And what difference does it make anyway? If you look up the word psychology in the dictionary, you're going to find the science of mind and behavior. And I just did that today. And I looked at several different iterations, and always that was what was there, mind and behavior. But if you look up the word psyche, you see breath, principle of life, soul. What happened? Nowhere does that show up in psychology. You think it would be all about that, but nowhere does it show up there. And my first teacher used to say, the reason psychology was inspired onto the planet is because humanity forgot why it was here. And how convenient to then take that same kind of reasoning, let's say, and actually change the definition of psyche so that when it became psychology, the whole spiritual aspect of it was totally left out. So we call it spiritual psychology, which essentially is redundant, but as our way of consciously bringing it back in again. So spiritual psychology recognizes spiritual reality and begins with the principle that we are not human beings with souls. We are souls that are having and using a human experience for the purpose of awakening, which is the purpose we're all here anyway. All right, so in that regard, spiritual psychology, what is it all about? I'm glad you asked. It's all about awakening. It's all about awakening. So let's get into that. What does awakening mean? I'm glad you asked. It means experientially, and I want to really emphasize that word experientially. And people from USM, you know what I'm talking about. Experientially becoming aware of your essential loving nature lying beyond your everyday five-sense reality and knowing that you are the presence of love. Your essence is nothing less than the presence of love, period. We just forgot it. We're working to remember,
And,
It's
and that word knowing is so important because we're not talking about mental knowing.
experientially knowing.
Yes, really knowing at that deep place of inner knowing inside yourself where
So-
you just know.
It's kind of like what Michelangelo had to say when he said, I saw the angel in the marble and carved to set until I set him free. Everybody else didn't see the angel in the marble. They just saw a slab of marble. But Michelangelo saw the angel in the marble and had the skill to carve and set him free. So this is what we're working with here, to first of all recognize the angel in the marble in each of us and everybody else in the world for that matter. Now, what can we do to carve until we set him or her free? In A Course in Miracles, they speak about it this way. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely, I like the word merely, merely. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. See, and then to that quote, we added ours, and to dissolve them. So let's think about that for a minute. You can't seek for something that's already present. What you can do is find all the barriers that prevent us from seeing it and dissolve them. To the degree you dissolve them, you start simply recognizing that you are essentially the essence of love. That's what spiritual psychology is all about. So, what are these barriers? And when we start to get into the barriers, we need to consider the nature of perception, because that word is not clearly understood. So let's clarify it. David Hawkins said that perception is edited observation. So the angel in the marble was seen is a perception. It takes what is being seen by everybody, which is observed by all, but sees something in that. So you edit observation and you have perception. And there are all kinds of edits going on. Daily, some people are finding things to be upset about, and some people will see the same things and they'll think it's a good thing. Perception is edited observation. Well, it raises the question, well, who does the editing? Who does the editing? Someplace inside, I'm editing. We all have that place, and it goes by the name your ego. Your ego. Based on what? What is it basing its editing process on? Well, your personal beliefs. Your personal beliefs. Now look at how this turns out. Therefore, what you believe determines what you'll perceive and experience. What you believe to be true, you will find all kinds of reasons to support that belief that you hold. Mary and I were talking about that on the way in tonight, because usually we do these from our home studio, but we're here at USM tonight. Everybody thinks that they are seeing what's real. But really, what real is simply what's there. Is the sun shining or is it cloudy? Well, depends upon which way you want to go. It's shining, there's some clouds. And, well, to me, it's kind of cloudy. No, it's a beautifully sunny day. You understand, what you believe determines what you'll perceive and experience and how you will share about it. Because this is so important. This is so important. Because we need to find out then, what is it that you believe? What determines what you believe? Now, for many psychologists, they say it's based on early childhood conditioning. That's the cause. And the whole psychological field revolves around that notion. However, when we start to get into the spiritual realm, the answer to this question becomes your spiritual curriculum. Your spiritual curriculum. What does that mean? What you came to earth to experience, to learn, to heal, the gifts you came to share. And one of the best ways of recognizing an opportunity for awakening is present when you find yourself having an experience of, I am upset because. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, especially new people. I don't know anybody that doesn't have a great because to justify their upset. I am upset because. Here's some common upsets going on today. I'm upset because COVID is not under control. I'm upset because political unrest is escalating. And my side, I'm not sure it's going to win. I'm upset because fires seem to be everywhere. I'm upset because I'm working too hard. I'm upset because I don't feel safer at home. There's a lot going on trying to mix work and home. It's not easy. And of course, if all else fails, I'm upset because traffic is still terrible. But that may be if you live here in Los Angeles. So if you think about it, I'm upset because, as a philosophy of life, is a complete and total victim position. I'm upset because it's not my fault. It's the fault of what's going on out there. And out there, it can be a spouse, it can be a family member, it could be a work environment, it could be political, it could be anything. This is the most prevalent thing that is going on the planet today. We have people running around, I'm upset because of this and that and the other thing. And I'm right. And therefore all those other people are wrong. You take that out to the ultimate, you're talking about war. I mean, that's what war is. It's two countries running, I'm upset because, and it's the other country's fault. Well, okay. Is there an alternative? And if so, what is it? As it happens, there is, at least in spiritual psychology, there is. I am upset because I forgot how this unravels. Okay. So I'm upset because I just explained I have a great reason for being upset. And you just fix the upset, then I'll be okay. What if there's another way to do this? Really a much simpler way. What if we focus on the upset? And what if there was a way that we could simply erase it? What if we could erase it? What would be left? Every time you succeed in doing that, and that's largely what spiritual psychology is all about, this is what you're going to find yourself experiencing. This is what you'll be left with. I am loving, for that is what I truly am. I am loving. That is my essential nature. That is what I truly am. You can talk about your likes and dislikes, but talk about them from a loving place. You don't have to be in an upset place. So what is the context that provides access to this reality? Well, the answer is the spiritual context. You are a divine loving being, and your life serves spiritual purpose. This understanding opens a portal to another way of perceiving yourself, your life experiences, and your purpose for being here on the earth. It's a different context. It's kind of like the difference between being in the same place. Let's say you're on the ground and you look up and there's an airplane flying across. That's your context. But let's say you're in the airplane and you're looking down at the same thing. You're in a totally different context, but basically you're sharing the same experience. It's like that. It's very much like that. All right, so this brings up several psychological, spiritual psychology principles. The first one, and this is really important, all becauses, which means anything that disturbs your peace, anything that upsets you, are in reality triggers to unresolved issues within your consciousness seeking resolution and are part of your spiritual curriculum. In fact, they are God-given opportunities for healing and awakening. Why don't we realize that? Because we're not brought up that way. We're brought up with the because way of looking at things. That goes for most of humanity. There are, of course, always the exceptions. So, what is the healing process? Well, we start out with how you relate to an issue is the issue. How you relate to an issue is the issue. If you're upset about something, it's not the something you want to be concerned about, it's the fact that you're upset. How you relate to an issue is the issue. The second thing to realize is you have a choice. You have a choice. You can go one of two ways. One of two ways, and you get to choose. First, you can continue blaming your upset on outer circumstances, which will rarely change, by the way, simply because you're upset about them. Or you can accept responsibility for what's going on inside of you, for the upset that's going on inside of you, and you can heal it. And by heal, we mean let go of it once and for all, for the last time. Well, how do you actually do this? What is involved? I mean, I never even knew that such a thing was possible. How do you do it? What's involved? Glad you asked. Healing is the application of loving to the places inside that hurt or are suffering. And this is one of the major spiritual psychology principles. Healing is the application of loving to the places inside that hurt or are suffering. Who brings the loving to them? You. You do. You do. This brings us to one of the major tools, I'd say the major tool, which we call compassionate self-forgiveness. Well, we've all heard of forgiveness. Well, okay, I can forgive them for that terrible thing that they did. That's not real forgiveness, because in your mind, they've still done a terrible thing. What you want to learn is compassionate self-forgiveness. Why compassionate? The word compassionate means to be with one who is suffering. So you learn to be with yourself while you're going through whatever it is you're going through, with compassion, with the understanding that what you are doing is healing some of the patterns that you came into the earth school to heal. For what? For what? Forever buying into the limiting beliefs, judgments, misinterpretations of reality, and misidentifications of yourself in the first place. Sometimes in the class, I tell people, I said, parents, you can rest a little easier. You're not responsible for the way your kids turn out. What? What do you mean? It's all because of... No. They came in with their own curriculum. You just help them along the way. That's a big one for a lot of people to wrap around. All right. Awakening is remembering who you are, a divine, loving being behind your misinterpretations, the deepest of which is that you are somehow unworthy and deserving of punishment and suffering. Nothing could be further from the truth, which is why a lot of the work that we wind up doing goes along the order of, I forgive myself for ever buying into the illusion that I am somehow unworthy and deserving of punishment and suffering. That's an illusion. Well, then what's the truth? The truth is that I am a soul using a human experience for awakening, and my essential nature is loving, joyful, peaceful, creative, grateful, compassionate, and free. The essence of healing, awakening, and authentic wellness is the same: loving. It's all about awakening to our essential nature as a divine loving being. Not just some of us, not just the ones who didn't do anything, quote, wrong. Everybody. We're all here awakening. That's all that's going on this planet. This spiritual psychology course is an experientially based set of practices to assist you in revealing the reality of that idea to yourself, experientially, not in your mind. In your mind is knowing about, experientially is knowing by having the experience. All right, so here we go. As Mary just announced, it's official. We will be offering Soul Centered Living 1, a 10-month certificate program in spiritual psychology. And soul-centered living is awakening into the awareness of who you truly are and living your life from it. Didn't we have that one already?
It bears repeating, Ron.
It bears repeating. The transformed world you seek can only emerge by first transforming the world within you. That world is your own consciousness. We love when people come together and go, let's awaken together. It is so much easier as a group process. All right, so I think that's the end.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. So what we'd like to do next is take some sharing. And the theme this evening, as I mentioned earlier, is the learning curve is steepening. Are you ready? And if you'd like to share how you're experiencing your learning curve as steepening and a specific challenge that you're having, you can raise your hand and Eliza will coach you on how to do that. And then Ron and I will take some sharing with a few of you. How about if we start with a couple of grads who are familiar with the sharing process?
I don't know who they are.
All right.
Wow,
so
a lot of hands.
yes. So, well, Shannon, let's start with you.
Hello, Ron and Mary. Thank you so
Hi.
much. Hi. Oh, it's so good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Your voice, and I experience your teachings. It's such a touchstone for me. And you know, the theme of this event really landed for me. It's very interesting. I feel the more is kind of thrown at me, and it's a significant amount, and it seems one keeps getting added to another. The more I really need to bring in these teachings, and the more I really need to kind of be in a state of grace to have the ability to really live these principles in the most, in the most depthful way as I possibly can. And what this brings up for me is that, a lot of inquiries are coming forward as I apply spiritual psychology, and as I apply everything as in the context of it being for my upliftment and growth and to really teach me something. I'm wondering, at what point do you do you ask yourself if you have a right understanding of a situation, or if you are actually making things up based upon fear? And I'll give you an example to just really illustrate what I'm saying. I feel that, and many spiritual teachers kind of echo this, that things are kind of coming to a head in terms of, well, maybe a very large transition. And I think generally as people, we're scared of large change. And I wake up every morning, I've got health issues now, and the principles are so helpful with this, but I wake up with a lot of panic, and I wake up in a lot of fear, and much of it is based upon stuff I just don't know, but that I feel is coming like from a download of intuition. And you both know that I participated in the consciousness, health, and healing, and the ways of knowing module, and that was very powerful for me. And I do feel that intuitive knowledge is growing and growing, especially with so much of the reading with Penny Pierce and all these teachers. And so in a way, it's almost like, do I really need to know what's real as I just, deal with what's present? But it still doesn't keep the anxiety from coming. Things like, oh my goodness, is there going to be an attack on the grid? Is there going to be a civil war? Is there, none of these nowadays, seem too far-fetched, even though they would at a certain time, but they seem to own me. And they seem, I wonder if it's something like when your intuitions come in this way, that cause a great deal of anxiety. I'm trying to discern if these are things that, I need to take action on, or what. I'd love to hear,
Yes. Well, first of all, I really appreciate what you shared. And one thing I would suggest to you, that these thoughts are not what I would consider intuition. They are more the ego throwing up things on the screen of your consciousness. And my understanding of what you're sharing, Shannon, is that it evokes fear, it evokes panic, it evokes anxiety.
To an extent, yes.
So and I'm hearing that this happens first thing in the morning upon awakening.
And it does kind of occur throughout the day. And
yes.
And there is some wisdom in being prepared with certain emergency situations, as we know from COVID. But I just don't think there's any value in the anxiety.
No, I would agree. I would agree, particularly given health situations that you're dealing with, that it tends to create more tension in the body, which isn't helpful with health situations. So, one of the suggestions I have for you, Shannon, as a grad, what is the first thing that you do upon awakening?
Well, if I remember, I try to calm the light, and I try to just put myself in my loving, even before my feet hit the ground. And that's just not my strategy from awakening. That's like a constant. I feel my survival depends upon being in a constant conversation with spirit, with God, with my beloved. And, the emotion is really strong as I just think about that. It's in a way.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question? So when you go to that place that you just described, where you're having the conversation with spirit, or when you're in the middle of that conversation, what do you experience?
There is no anxiety, and there's only in the moment.
Stop right there. there is your answer. See, when you are in connection with the spirit that is inside you, which we call your loving essence, you could call it your spirit if you want, your soul would be another name. When you move into conversation with that part inside of you, especially the more you do it, when you enter that place, all of the anxiety goes away. The learning, like I'll call it the exercise, is to see, or not see, but work toward keeping that conversation alive every minute of every day.
I have, and with what you just shared, what comes forward also is where does like a service element come into play? I mean, when is not anxiety, but awareness of potential things that may occur? When is that valuable in terms of helping yourself and helping others?
Nothing that is going to occur outside, nothing that is going to occur outside is going to have an effect on your inner relationship with your own spirit. It's independent. It's in a different consciousness. It's in a different world. It's like you went off the earth into the spirit. And the things that happen on the earth are going to happen. And everybody gets to deal with them. It's let's call it the collective lessons of all the souls that are on the earth who came here to work with that. That's why they came here at this time. This is the way we would think about this in spiritual reality. So someone said, well, that's your thought, Ron. I mean, how do you know that really, the way that I know is every time I go and think that way, all the pain and the fear goes away. And all I'm left with is that state of, I'll call it acceptance. What does that mean? Well, really, it means I accept as a fact that spirit knows what it's doing. There's no chance in this game. And I find that the more I go along and move into that level of way of being inside myself, I find things in consciousness clarify. I find that fear is very rare.
Mm.
And I find that I can be a force for peace by bringing peace into whatever situation I find myself. The challenge that most of us have is taking those steps up into higher consciousness, because in the beginning it just seems like, well, it's another one of these hippie ways of thinking about stuff. It doesn't solve the real problems. And it does solve the real problems. It doesn't solve the make-believe problems, of which is most of what goes on the planet. And this is why we do the skills that we spend so much time working in. And I'm not going to say this is easy. I mean, this is not easy. There are relatively few people on the planet really doing this. And many of them are USM grads.
Yes.
And, what I would add to what Ron is sharing with you, Shannon, is that there's an opportunity in this to let go of the illusion of control. To let go
Big one.
of the illusion of control.
So much, yes.
And to become more surrendered within your own consciousness and to stay more in the presence, in the present. Because I would suspect that if you track your disturbance, it's like you become disturbed when you go into negative future fantasy. And I'm encouraging you, when you find yourself in the future, to call yourself back to the presence of who you are, to your loving nature, to the peace inside.
Yes, I feel that is such a touchstone, and as you share it, and I'll just say that doing the principles and the everything integrating spiritual psychology into my life creates such an easy flow to just let it go and just to return to that, like,
That's
present.
right.
And because that's when I'm there, there's the questions just disappear. They really do.
Yes,
That's the answer.
yes, there you are.
And it's
Thank you.
funny, it's amazing the grace that shows up and the synchronicities, they all become very apparent.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Thank you, Ron and Mary.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's see here. John.
John who? John Dale?
John Dale.
Is that John Dale?
It is. It's John Dale. Hi, you guys.
Hi.
I'm actually I'm on a rooftop in Bangkok,
Beautiful.
and it's quite interesting to be here. I'm going to sit down now so that I can. I just wanted to show you where I am. I've just completed exercising, and being on the rooftop is one of the places I do that. If the wind becomes too much, just let me know, and I'll go down the stairwell, and you'll be able to hear me better.
For those of you who don't know, John lives in Thailand.
Yeah, and I just got married 2 months ago, and my wife's job is in. Oh, you guys didn't know that? I just got married 2 months ago, and my wife's job is in Bangkok. So I recently left my beautiful house in Chiang Mai with extraordinary temples within walking distance to the big city of Bangkok, and hopefully that changes soon. We're working on that. But that's not actually, so Bangkok, Chiang Mai, where I live, whether I'm married, that's not necessarily what I wanted to talk about. Actually, what Shannon I don't want to hijack Shannon's share, but what he talked about was pretty similar to what I wanted to share. I noticed that there are times when I'm so aware of and connected to and present with ultimate space that it's just like I can be aware that I'm the space in the molecule, not the electrons or the atoms, or I'm not a scientist, but not the particles, but the things that are between the particles. Sometimes I refer to it as in the river, I can be a chain link fence and just have everything flow through without attaching to anything. And it's extraordinary. It's wonderful. It is how you referenced. I can't recreate it at the moment, but a couple of things that you said when you talked with Shannon. It is that. But yet at the same time, the attachment comes, and it comes. It seems like almost the more I'm present to the space, the more I'm present to the attachment as well. Like the attachment comes and it's strong. It's almost hard. Like not only is it hard to get out of it, but it's like hard, like solidified hard. And I think that this is I think this plays right into the exact thing that you're saying is the subject of today, which is the opportunities are growing. Actually, maybe you'd say it because I didn't recreate that exactly right. What's the exact subject of today?
The learning curve is steepening. Are you ready?
So the learning curve is steepening, and the distinction between how stuck I can get and how spacious I can get is widening. And the truth is, sometimes it's amazing, but sometimes it's maddening. Maddening.
Yep.
Well, and so part of this really relates to the principle: how you relate to the issue is the issue. How you're going to
Indeed.
relate with yourself when you're on a position or you're experiencing attachment.
Yeah.
So you can judge yourself, you can make yourself wrong, or you can recognize it and have compassion for your own humanness. And this is part of what's tricky, I think, for all of us. We're multidimensional in consciousness. So, yes, we're a divine being having and using a human experience, and we have an ego, and we have a basic self. And so there are these other levels of consciousness, and how are we going to relate with them?
Yeah. When you say that, I think, how am I going to relate with them? How do I give that space too? How do I give the stuckness space to let it just be hard and crusty and ugly and whatever else that sounds nasty? How do I just let it be that way without making myself wrong? Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, without judging it.
Yeah.
And to me, this is about accepting our humanness, accepting the multi-dimensional nature of consciousness, the many facets of who we are, and to recognize the divine in all of it. It's like
that last part, to recognize the divine in all of it, and to recognize the divine in the humanity, to recognize the divine in me stepping in gum, Yeah.
One of my mantras during a particularly challenging period in my inner life, quite a number of years ago now, became, I love myself no matter what. I love myself no matter what. So that when one of these things was thrown up inside of me, my response was, I love myself no matter what. And I'll tell you, John, that really, I found it very effective and very assistful in me letting go of judgment, in me just coming to a much greater place of acceptance of my own humanity and my own humanness, and to recognize that both of these exist side by side within me. And for a reason. It's really in service to our awakening. It's in service to our remembering. It's in service to our learning how to exercise the muscle, the choice muscle inside. And sometimes I say part of it is learning how to switch channels. From
Where's that damn remote?
What radio station am I going to listen to? Am I going to listen to K Ego, or am I going to listen to K Love?
Yeah. Amen to that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, John.
Good luck, John.
Bless you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Love you. Bye.
Bye. All right. So let's see here. Ophelia,
trying to get my hi.
Hi, Ophelia.
Hi. I honor and I respect your time, and I just feel blessed to be here with you both. I mean, with you, everybody. Um, and
A
all right, so
little louder, Mike.
blazing the light what I'm sharing right now, and I'm going through a process in terms of am I learning or not. Right now, I feel in a process of confusion. Um, I feel like really this pandemic has brought a lot of issues for everybody as well. I see that as something good, like a really great opportunity for me to step out of my comfort zone. Right now, well, I'm financially challenged, and got rid of, I mean, I use my savings. I'm not I don't have a job right now. I have a teenager at home. She went through her own challenge of being apart from her friends, and we somehow have been navigating things. So I have these friends that are very close to me, and they're going through, I would say, like a separation, and they have a teenager as well. So they're out of the city. They don't live in the same area that I am, and the way that I see it, the boundaries or the way that they have to raise their daughter is very different than mine. They're proposing that I'm kind of go there and kind of like be like the library for them, and be um, well, the mom is kind of struggling staying there, so she wants to move part of the equation, and I will be there with her daughter and her ex-husband. The way that I see, everything in exchange for you will not be concerned about financial, all your rent and all that. And I'm trying to, I'm very confused right now. Like the part of me says, I have this pattern of saving people or putting the needs of other people first. I see a possible, I don't know. I don't know. This is the way out for me in terms of having a break, or if it's really what I need to stand up and say, no, this is not what I want in my life for my daughter, not for myself. But I feel a jerk saying no, to their request. So I'm trying to step into what is right for me. And right now, I seem to have to see something good or some problems in both ways. So I'm trying to get some clarity. I'm not sure if I'm um,
Well,
giving.
I love the last thing that you said, and that is that you're seeking clarity.
Yes.
And to me, in what you expressed, Ophir, I hear you saying that you're seeking clarity of really what is truly for the highest good of all concerned, for yourself and your daughter, for this couple and their daughter as well. And one of the things that can be helpful sometimes in clarifying a situation is to ask yourself if certain agreements were in place, prior to actually making the decision. In other words, clarifying agreements that you'd like to have in place before you said yes. Would that be helpful? And part of why I suggest this question is because many times in a situation like this, Ophelia, there can be unspoken expectations.
Mm-hmm.
What are the unspoken expectations that are part of this request? And if those were brought more out in the open and there was clarification, if you asked yourself if there were certain agreements in place, they were clear agreements, would then it be clear to move forward? Because in a way, possibly you don't have enough information yet. And my sense is that some of what you're feeling as the unclarity is the unclarity in terms of what's really being requested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, because it does. I spent a few days with this teenager, and it felt like there's no way I can manage this. The kind of behavior that she's been allowed. And now I have my daughter kind of facing me saying, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with having a conversation with friends that you don't know 2 a.m. in the morning, either 10 years older than you. So to me, it's like all that is so foreign because I'm not sure if I'm being too, outrageous or no, this is the way it is. And they're so different, teens these days, or my daughter or her friends, I would say.
So it sounds like that you have a different value system
Yeah. Mm.
that you have really used in raising your daughter. And part of what I hear you saying is that you're concerned about the influence of this other young woman on your daughter.
Yes. And I feel, well, I'm just going to place this in the light, what I'm saying, and this is to me very sacred space. So I'm trusting everybody here, but I mean, I consider myself a worker of the light. And this other person was, or the mother of this person was okay on her daughter buying a witchcraft book. And she said, I review everything about it. Everything is okay. So obviously next thing that I hear is from them being very upset. They both, the teens, with everything that is happening in the world and wanted to curse someone. And I said, in my way, what are the consequences of doing something like that? And to my surprise, the next day, she comes to me and say, such person or this girl found a way of cursing someone without getting the karma. So to me it was like, this is like so beyond, so beyond right now. Me, I'm just scared, I guess, scared of saying, putting a boundary that she would like to go over and say, no, I'm still researching this, which doesn't come from her, it comes from her friends around, or to say no, period. This is not where we're going. You know what I mean? So
I can tell you what I do in such circumstances, because see, the way that you're having two sides of this story, what we generally try to do is figure it out in our mind which way is the best way to go.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that can be very challenging. So when I'm confronted with a situation like that, what I do is, before I go to bed at night, I ask Spirit for clarification. Lord, I don't know which way to go. There's this, there's this. I'm asking for your assistance. I would appreciate a dream that clarifies for me which way would be for the highest good of all concerned.
Okay.
Because in our ego mind, we very often really don't know what's for our highest good, because the ego doesn't know what that means.
Yeah.
So that's what I do when I'm in situations like that.
Okay.
And I've never been led in what I would call, I've never been led astray.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one other reflection for you, Ophelia. It's okay to say no to what you don't want.
Okay. that's the part that I'm hoping to get strength with, because I been in in the past I allowed myself to be in abusive relationships, and I recognize that part of me that kind of justifies the other person. Oh, it doesn't know better. Let me just call the life for that person. And I'm just going to practice self-forgiveness for a couple of days until I go back to my center. And I'm the one always going, I recognize a part of me, and somehow related to this situation, I want to stay strong. I really want to say no. And I feel a jerk inside myself for saying no, because it really feels like that it would be a good solution. I just don't want to be part of it. I'm trying to gain the strength to stay in that's not the path that I want for me or for my daughter. If she chooses that in her life later on, that's, I'll be there for her.
Well,
But I don't want to be the one putting her in that situation.
Well, and I would reflect to you that what you're speaking of now sounds like elements of your spiritual curriculum. In other words, you've had multiple experiences in this lifetime where you said yes when you would have preferred to have said no. And
Right.
I would submit to you that you already do have the strength inside of you.
Okay.
You have the power of love inside of you. And what I hear you saying is that your intention is to make a self-honoring choice.
Yes.
And I just encourage you to let go of anything inside of you that would lead you to worship at the God of someone else's opinion about you. Staying true to yourself, your true self, is so much more important and valuable than other people's approval or opinions, Ophelia.
Yeah. I hear you. I felt it, and I got in touch with that clarity. I think those are people that I value and I love so much. They're like family to me. And it's part of me that is grieving because in the past I have said no to them and I noticed the separation. But right now I am, I'm okay with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You bet.
Thank you, Ophelia. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you too.
Thank you so much.
All right. So, well, I think I see a name I don't recognize. So I think that would be a new person. Jeffrey Kamen.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So I'm Jeff. It's nice to meet you. I spent a month up in Washington with Betsy and Joe at the clearing.
Ah,
And I just recently got back. And I'd like to say that I went up there for some anger issues, and they just were the best. And they said what a great place University of Santa Monica was, and that I should look into it. And so I am here for my first meeting. And for me, I'm looking through everything through new eyes. Before I went up there, I was very angry. I'm a former Marine. I was in a war. I spent time in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I had serious PTSD. And now, after going through the clearing and going through a lot of the teachings that Betsy and Joe have shared with me, all of which they told me they learned from you. They did nothing but rave about you guys for the whole month I was there. I've completely, everything is through a new light. My family barely recognizes me because I'm so at peace with myself. I use my intentions daily. I use my affirmations daily. But the learning curve is still very steep for me. Everything that I do has a high learning curve because everything that I'm doing is through new eyes. And I wanted to share a little bit with, as Ophelia did, because I too have a teenage daughter that I am, my wife and I are dealing with, I guess is a good word. Very smart girl, very, very determined, very stubborn might be a good word. And so, you know, before I went up, I was a very scary person, and now I'm this new person, and so I'm really having a hard time being patient with her because she's still my daughter still fears me because before I went up there, my only communication skill was to say it really loud, and if you didn't agree or understand me, then I would just yell it at you until everything broke. And of course now I don't even raise my voice and everything, but still I'm in a different place than where I was, but she is still sees me as the same. So my question is, I don't know if it's a question, but that's my steep learning curve is I'm still trying to deal with, I've moved on and I'm in her eyes, I'm still this monster basically. And so I'm looking for a little bit of help. And I also want to know about enrolling in the next semester at the University of Santa Monica. So those are my two questions.
Well, let's deal with the more important one, which is your relationship with your daughter.
Agreed.
And you know, the process of learning is when something is repeated over and over and over again, we learn to respond in a certain way, which is called conditioning in psychology. And when you take away that reinforcement, you enter into a process of deconditioning. It goes the opposite way. And it takes time because all of the conditioning that has gone on previously will come up as soon as she finds herself in one of those situations with you. But if you are behaving, and it sounds like you are, in a new way, where you're quieter, you're calmer, you're more loving, you're more concerned. And I don't know if Betsy and Joe worked on this skill with you when you were up at the clearing. And by the way, if you talk to them again, tell them hello.
I will.
It's the skill called perception checking. Did they work with you with that?
Yes.
Okay. So when she says something to you, you can say, let me, in a calm, I want to make sure I understand you. See, the mere saying of that is a statement of caring. I really want to make sure I understand you. Here's what I heard you were saying to me. Have I got it right? And you say what it was, have I got it right? And if she says yes, then you say, good. I care about you. And so I really want to know that you're understanding me.
That I'm understanding you.
And that I'm understanding you. So what's next? What do you have to say next? And of course, you're doing all of this from a caring, loving place inside so that your emotions match that which you're saying. That one skill alone is very often all that you really need. To see, if you keep doing that, each time that happens, you are deconditioning the old learning pattern that she bought into at that time. It may take a while. You have to make that okay. So that would be one thing that I would highly recommend The most important thing is where you are inside when you make those statements. You want to be in a loving place, which is the way you really care for her. And I bet you anything that'll make a huge difference.
I'm really trying, that's for sure.
I
Sometimes
hear you.
Well, and
I hear you.
I so
Yeah.
encourage you in being patient. If you can accept this, that this may take some time. And also probably what will also help, and this is not necessarily easy, is letting go of the attachment to her getting that you're different. In other words, if you can simply continue showing up as the presence of peace and love in your relationship with your daughter, practicing the basic skills that you learned up there, seeing the loving essence, heart-centered listening, perception checking, and one of the other skills I'm sure they taught you was prizing. Those skills are powerful. And how long did you say you'd been back home now?
Almost a month, not even a month yet.
Yes. Sin, how old is your daughter?
14.
14. So she had 14 years of experiencing her dad really as a warrior. As a warrior. It's like that warrior served you very well, I suspect, in the tours of duty that you did. And so it was necessary for your survival. And so that part served you. And now what you're learning is really the way of the spiritual warrior or the way of the peaceful warrior. Have you read Dan Millman's book, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior?
Just small parts of it, but it was part of the reading list that they had, just some excerpts of it. So I read through some of it.
Good, good. See, and I just encourage you. She's had about a month of a new dad.
Yeah.
Takes
And
time.
this is a process. And I just encourage you. It's called chop wood, carry water. Chop wood, carry water. Keep doing the practices. Do the practices. You've made a tremendous investment. And I just acknowledge you for recognizing that you needed a timeout and that you went to the clearing and you went through their process. And I'm so glad that you showed up here this evening, that we had the opportunity to speak with you. I mean, really, you already have made a huge shift, huge. The question you asked about how you get more information, Eliza's going to respond to that at the end of the evening.
Great.
So
Great.
it's a pleasure to meet you and to share with you.
Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to hear from two students who are currently part of the class. And let's see. Let's start with Chris.
Hi.
Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to be with you.
Wow, you look so much better.
Thank you. Feeling good. And this has been such a lovely evening. Thank you. I wanted to share just briefly about my experience throughout year one as a grad, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay. At first I wasn't sure what to expect from the material, but I felt drawn to it. I felt a calling in my heart towards it. So there was a high level of excitement, and I just chose right before I went in for the first weekend, chose to fully participate and see what happens. And what I noticed right away is that when the whole class is together, the energy field is just automatically lifted by everybody together doing the work. And it just provides the most beautiful experience for everybody to be in that energy field, and how beautifully it's transcended this year as well through the computer, through Zoom. That energy field has still been very present. And some specific things that were transforming or transformational for me. I had started out last year right after a major car accident and had lost my job due to those injuries, and ended up using the skills and found a great job at a company that I love. I reunited with a friend who I hadn't spoken to in 7 years when he walked past me outside of school one day, which was amazing. And my dad had passed away, I think 8 years earlier, and I was still very much stuck on my dad died. And through working with this material, I was able to see that my dad lived, and I was able to really deeply honor his life and the contributions he made to my life, and honor him in ways that I would have never expected. And then most recently, when I was hospitalized with COVID, I was able to just trust that I would be cared for no matter what the outcome. And the combination of the skills, my willingness to embrace them, and the guidance from you, Mary, and you, Ron, has just helped me so much with this and so many more things. So I'm deeply grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris, for your sharing. And I can't tell you what a joy it is just to see you in your radiant health. And I'm just so grateful. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And we'll also hear from Scout. Hi,
Hello.
Scout. Hi.
I'm watching with my partner Jake because I wanted to share it with him as well.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm just so grateful to be here and grateful to participate in this night, especially knowing that so many people I really cherish and care about are also watching, because what I felt from being in this class since March 2019 is just such an overwhelming gratitude for this learning. And the particular way in which both of you present this curriculum so that things really can be known experientially, I found that it was a lot of information that I had that I thought I understood, but to really know it and to integrate it in my life was so different. And there truly is a before and after USM in my life, in the way that I move through every situation, challenging and uplifting. And, I used to think that being on this path was about arriving at some sort of spiritual happiness and destination. And I would really judge when I wasn't feeling good, when I was having anxiety or stress. And now I have the opportunity to look at my whole life through a lens of absolute trust, absolute gratitude, and come to a point where I can see that it's a privilege to wake up and be me every day. Coming from a place in my life where I felt so consciously and unconsciously unworthy of love, of care, of being seen and witnessed, to a place where I really experientially know my worth and value. And it's not about finding, this unassailable happiness. It's about having the tools so that I can wake up every day and I can move through things with integrity, with responsibility, and with volition in my own life, because I'm not controlled. I'm not living my life just in reaction to what's happening around me. And it was a hard pill to swallow, this idea that no one else is the cause of my pain and upset. But once I really, tried to take that on, I realized that actually was the key to freedom. That's in right. Being let it go.
That's right.
And it's completely transformed every relationship in my life, with my partner, with my mom, with my sisters. And I actually was able to take year one and now year two with my mom and my older sister. And my younger sister's on the call because we're trying to like get the whole family involved. um, but I'm filled with so much gratitude and so much humility, knowing how far I've come and seeing the slides that really showed me the basic understanding of what it is. It made me recognize where I was at inside of myself and how I was perceiving the world when I first started this class, and truly how profound the change in my life has been. And I feel so grateful. And for anyone who's wondering how it is online, I can say that I've been able to have experiences that are just as profound and just as deep in this format. Truly, the way this class is organized is life-changing.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Scout. Thank you very much for your sharing. All right, so I think we'll have time for maybe one more question, and then there are a couple of things we want to do to complete the evening as well. So this looks like a new person also. Darren Dean.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Ron and Mary.
Hi.
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 It's so funny. I am not a USMer, but I am the seed of a USMer and the cousin of a USMer, and I've always seen you guys in the mail, and you guys are on my refrigerator as well. And so my cousin invited me to this call, and she did the program, and my mother did it as well. And so I find at this time that I like, it's almost like neurotic that there are so many things coming up in my mind, and I'm actually being challenged in a lot of ways. And just this past year, and some of the teachings that at least my cousin and my mom have talked about and that I've seen, I know that the answer is not outside of me. So as I'm looking at the people and I'm feeling like very triggered, I'm like, there has to be another way. There has to be another way. There has to be another way. And so I guess my question is that I'm experiencing a challenge. I'm experiencing a challenge with a friend, and I don't know if I want to be their friend, and I don't know if I really know how to be their friend. And I could relate to what you were saying earlier, Mary, about like different channels of consciousness. And sometimes I feel really conscious and really present and nothing matters. And then other times I feel extremely reactive and very angry and resentful. Mm-hmm. And one of the most frustrating things is that I project, or that I believe that I'm very similar to this friend. And I'm also thankful that I can have this experience because it shows me where I want to grow. And so I don't know if I want this person in my life because they are such a challenge, or if I don't want this person in my life because they are such a challenge. And
well,
so
let's take it that currently they are in your life, and it sounds like you recognize that they are a powerful mirror for you. So one of the principles of spiritual psychology is that outer experience is a reflection of inner reality.
Uh-oh.
And very often, in fact, invariably, our relationships with other people are mirroring to us aspects of our relationship with ourselves. So, what would you say you find the most challenging about this person?
I think that they do whatever they want, and they don't even really, they just do it because it feels good, and they don't care about me, or they don't, only they matter. Like, they're just selfish.
So yeah, go ahead.
See, that may be very accurate. Whether they are or not is not the question. The question is, to what degree does that disturb your peace?
To an extremely high degree. Like, I almost feel it rising. I feel rejected, and I feel angry.
Right.
Okay.
See, now those are the issues.
And that's material that you can work with. That's material that you can work with. So, things to consider. One thing you can consider is, are there times, or have there been times, where I have done things without really considering myself? That would be one thing you can consider. A second thing you can consider is, are there ways that I relate with myself or talk with myself inside of me where I am rejecting myself? So, for example, an example of that would be where I judge myself as less than, or I judge myself as unlovable, or I judge myself as not mattering. It could be a myriad of things. Those are just examples. But you start, it's like relationship is a mirror. And if we can start looking at what's being reflected and what it brings up inside of us, and we can learn to work with what it brings up inside of us. You know, my sense is that there's something down in there inside of you that has a deep misbelief that somehow you're not important, or that you don't matter. That something happened at some point, probably fairly early in your life, that you interpreted to mean that you're not important or you don't matter. And so then that misinterpretation, that limiting belief, becomes something that then colors the lens of our perception. It affects what we attract. The patterns that we have attract people who will relate with us in ways that will surface them. So this is not bad. This is actually a blessing, because then we have the opportunity to work with them, to really heal them, as Ron shared in the talk, to bring healing to the places inside where there's been hurt and misunderstandings, and apply loving to those places so they can heal and resolve and dissolve. Does this give you an idea of some direction?
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
And if you want to go to the heart of the matter, it's going to be something along the lines of, I forgive myself for ever believing that about myself. I just let go of that belief, because the truth is of a divine, loving being.
Hmm. Ah.
Did we say something funny?
No, I'm just experiencing that, and I think that is where I sometimes I like I feel inside, like my stomach is little. I'm just like breathing in, breathing out.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I just realize I can't believe this is coming up now.
Why not?
Like it's just,
Well, but what a beautiful
yeah.
opportunity. And thank you for your willingness to share. And also thank you for your willingness to receive the reflection that we gave you, to consider it, and to
Thank you.
recognize the opportunity in that. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you guys so both.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So let's see. We have a couple more things to do here, Ron. One is we wanted to do a brief sharing about the real story of awakening. And this is taken from the last book that Ron and I co-authored called Remembering the Light Within. And this little section appears near the end of the book. What is the real story of awakening as you live more and more fully into the awareness that you truly are a divine being having a human experience? What happens as you integrate skills such as seeing the loving essence and heart-centered listening, and they become a way of being? What transpires when you catch on to the fact that life is happening inside your consciousness and not out there as you previously thought? What happens when you realize that your experience in physical world reality is determined largely by the beliefs found within the matrix of your perceptual filter, functioning as your internal operating system? And you consciously begin downloading and installing a spiritual orientation software upgrade. What shifts occur when you realize you are the architect of your life and that your inner and outer choices are the building blocks of your future, and you begin making more self-honoring choices, choices more in harmony with your loving nature and your soul's purpose? What happens when you wake up to the authentic empowerment available through taking responsibility for your judgments and upsets with the intention of releasing them, and you begin realizing you are at cause rather than at the effect? What happens when you begin to apply loving to the place inside where there is hurt, and you engage in compassionate self-forgiveness of your judgments, misinterpretations, and misidentifications, and you let them go? What happens when the deep wellspring of compassion that resides within your authentic self begins flowing abundantly through you, and you wake up into the awareness that you are love? Here's what happens. You've struck it rich. This is when life truly begins, for in those moments of revelation, you know the mother lode, the source of true gold, is within you. In fact, it is you. You've experienced your authentic self, and your awakening heart is aware of the download of Spirit's blessings through you as you. Your consciousness becomes a conduit for living love, and your course through life an expression of that love. For you know, as poet Rod McEwen knew, it doesn't matter who you love or how you love, but that you love, to which we would add, for you are love. Remember, growth is an ongoing process, not an event. We support and encourage you. The principles and practices of spiritual psychology are practical tools you can use each and every day of your life in service to your awakening. Namaste. Well, we thank all of you for joining us here this evening. And Eliza?
Yeah, hi. I just want to thank you, Ron and Mary. That is such a beautiful reading. When I read it for the first time, it was like going through a meditation of what I have lived through since I walked through the doors at USM. For the last 10 years, I've been in this community, and it's an incredible awakening, and it has really transformed my life. And to everybody on this call, my gosh, the grads, I think, would all agree with me when we can emphatically say that this education really is as magical as everybody says it is. I know sometimes it's like, can it really be that good? Yeah, it can. It really can. And so we are so glad that you were able to join us tonight. Everybody who's interested in this education, who's been introduced to it tonight, we're so glad you came. And for those of you that last several months, yay! Soul Centered Living 1 online of February 2021. We are beyond thrilled to be holding this class, and we are going to direct you to the gorgeous brochure. There will be a link in the chat, and here's something that I want you all to know about me. It is one of my favorite things to do, to talk about this education and to help clarify for people whether starting this journey at USM is the right, clear next step inside of them. So if you have that question, I want to talk to you. I can't wait. You can call me at the university or email me, or in the brochure, there's a link to schedule a call. All of that information will be pasted in the chat as well. And finally, if you are clear inside after tonight and you just know, like, yes, I want to be in that online classroom, I am ready to go, we are posting a link to register in the chat, because I know many of you have been asking us and me for a while, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? And I am repeating myself, but I'm thrilled to tell you February 2021. So again, thank you all so much for joining us. I just also wanted to give a shout out to the grad community. The presence of the grad community is so powerful, and it is that presence that speaks volumes about this work. And we are so grateful to be coming together in this way at this time, all the time, but especially at this time, I think. And we encourage you to share this information with loved ones. We encourage you to stay, in the community, to keep coming back, to keep reminding ourselves over and over of the light within that we got blessed by being part of this education to remember in the first place. So as always, thank you, Drs. Ron and Mary Hulnick, and thank you to all of the people on this call. What an incredible evening it was. I know I feel lighter inside already, and yeah, I feel ready for the steepening learning curve. So success. And I am going to unmute you all so you can say goodnight. Oh, the other thing I want to say is stay tuned. There will be more events coming up. We will keep you all posted about that. We love you. God bless you. Peace be with you. And I can't wait to talk to you. I'm going to unmute you to say goodbye and have an incredible, incredible week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Mary.
Thanks very much.
You all. Hi, Mom. Hey, Gretchen.
Bye.
Hey, Demi. Hey, Alana.
Bye.
Hi, Eliza. Hi, Scal. Good job.
Michelle.
Bye, guys.
Awesome to see everyone.
Night.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Good night, everyone.
Love and light.
Love
Good night.
you.
Bye.
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 Love you.
Bye.
Good night, Shelly, with your beautiful pink hair.
Hi, Hunter. We got a sneezer.
Love you. Bye. Thank you.
Sorry, Ken.
Love you guys.
Night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Hi, Hunter. Hi, Princess Scott. Hi, Jake.
Hi, Nathan.
Thank you, Ron and Mary. You are a blessing in my life, and I was a graduate of 2002, and I love you.
Thank you.